Every now and then, a story comes along that needs to be told. This is one of them. It's a story of love and of friendship. It's about people, and perhaps most of all, it's a story of the airplane that brings them together. This is the story of the 195ers. It's September in a little place called Granbury, Texas. This is where the International Cessna 195 Club is holding its annual convention and fly-in for 2018.
We've got sunshine, beautiful skies, and we've already got about 19 of the Cessna 195s already here, and it just starts today, so looks like it's going to be a good turnout.
This is a gathering for a very unique and evocative airplane. Designed just after World War II, the 195 is now a bit of a rarity in modern-day aviation, not just because of its age, but also because it has a round or radial engine, which just isn't very common anymore. It means that 195 pilots are a little bit elite because they fly behind a radial engine, and also because of the skill and the knowledge they need to properly maintain and operate it.
I mean, you have to have a little mechanical ability to be able to fly the round motor antiques, because it takes a little bit of fine tuning.
Yeah, you're gonna work on them as well.
It's the sound. It's a real bulletproof engine too. I mean, so it's a good engine, and you just gotta love a radial engine. It's probably the history. These engines were designed back in the 1930s. And they're still great engines today, and they've been improved upon since then.
The Cessna 195 is also a tail dragger, which means that it sometimes wants to swap ends on landing.
You just got to make sure that you don't get behind the airplane at any point. You got to pay attention and stay on top of it. Otherwise, it can definitely bite you in the butt.
It humbles you each time. It is the boss, not you.
Your ability to see out of this thing when you're on the ground is very diminished. You've got 15 degrees here, 15 degrees there. You're tacking the airplane back and forth and you taxi it.
The Cessna 195 first flew in 1947, and the last one built left the factory in 1954.
Of the 1,200 unit production run, and that's an approximate number, about half still exists, and of those 500 or 600, about half of those are actively flown.
The 195 is an undoubtedly beautiful airplane. It was the first all-metal airplane that Cessna built, and the company's last one with a round engine. Its classic lines, arrayed behind its powerful Jacobs engine, harken back to the days when piston-powered aviation was approaching its zenith. The 195 is the trestle between the golden age of flight and the more modern, post-war vision of aviation for the common man.
Dwayne Wallace, this airplane was the airplane that he always wanted to build. And it was the first airplane that was built as a business airplane. And he called it the Businessliner.
It was a plane that they developed for business people so they can get from short hops into small airfields. And you see the old pictures of the original owners all dressed up in their suits and hat, and it's really great.
Not many people use 195s for business travel these days. No, people acquire them because they simply love the design.
Number one, I like the radial engine, and number two, I like that it's all metal. I don't have to worry about tube and fabric. I don't know a whole lot about tube and fabric, and the airplane really performs well. It's a 160-mile-an-hour airplane, hauls a good load and has good range, and we use it to travel.
It's a classic old airplane that not everybody can go out and buy a Beech 18, but you can buy a 195 and haul your family around in it, and you can see the entire country. and go to the Bahamas in the winter. It's a wonderful, wonderful machine.
The sound, the look, the whole style, I think. I think Cessna hit a home run when they decided to build it back in the 40s.
The 195 has its idiosyncrasies, of course, but despite them, or maybe because of them, the 195 has a devoted and adoring fan club.
I will say that I have always loved the look of the 195. I'm probably an Art Deco kind of guy. It's an Art Deco kind of plane.
This airplane it's an amazing creature because it has the ability to take people who in all other aspects of their life are very regimented, very diligent. They'll throw caution to the wind for it. Men who would never venture anything will find one of these airplanes, and it's almost as if it has a spell. It will cast a spell on them, and I've got to have it now.
Oh, it's just the romance of it. I mean, it's a flying Harley Davidson. You know, it cranks up and anyone, any place around turns and looks to see what's flying. It's nostalgic, it's vintage, it's just got a lot of that old aviation charm to it.
The 195 seems to be a lot more stable, seems to absorb the energy better, and of course, you know, once you get in and get in that seat, you just really feel good with that big old engine in front of you.
They look great, they sound great, they haul a lot, they're fast. You can go IFR. It's just a great all-around airplane.
I think all these 195s are just gorgeous.
But I've flown well over 100 types of airplanes, and this is the best.
I like the round engine. I like the noise. I like the more cylinders, the better.
Clearly, for Cessna 195 owners, the airplane is magical. But there's more than just the airplane itself. If you own a 195, or even if you're just interested or curious about one, you can join the International Cessna 195 Club. You can be a 195er, and that's a bonus beyond compare.
Oh, this is the greatest type club in the history of aviation. I mean, we've got some of the finest people I have ever known. And they're so friendly, they're helpful, they love this airplane as much as Charmian and I do. And it's just really fun to get together every year like this at the 195 convention.
And I don't know if the people are attracted to the airplane or the airplane attracts the people, but it's very different than any other type organization I've been to, and the common denominator is the people.
And the fact is, this airplane just chooses interesting people. And you know, we bought this airplane with the idea that it was going to take us on trips and we're going to explore lots of different areas. And what it's become is, we almost never fly our airplane someplace that's not visiting a friend. And really, we always end up hanging out with somebody from this club.
Our kids, now that they're in their early 20s, they tell stories all the time about the great trips that they've been on in the 195 and the fly-ins that they've been to, and just all the people that they've met too through the club, and just the kind of the friendships and those sorts of things that you get from being in the club.
It's like family. We are a family, and I can't describe it anywhere else. I mean, we share our sorrow together. We share our happiness. We've got a whole bunch of families here with kids, and they're part of it. And it's like homecoming every year, once a year.
The 195 convention moves around from year to year, except for years that end in 7.
On our 10th anniversary years, which happened to be, for example, last year, 2017, we meet in Wichita, Kansas, where this plane was born.
Regardless of where the convention is, it's one of the highlights of a 195er's year. It's a time to connect and to reconnect with old airplanes and old friends. They fly together, admire each other's airplanes, and share knowledge and fun.
Today is really the first day of the event. It's an arrival day. There'll be people flying in from all over the country. And we also plan to fly out for lunch to a nearby airport at Stephenville, eat barbecue at a place called Hard 8. It's a typical Texas barbecue joint, very good.
This right here, this is pretty bad.
Sharing tips and tricks and insight into how to keep and maintain these wonderful old aircraft is a crucial aspect of the 195 Club. Each year's convention features a maintenance seminar, which this year focused on corrosion control and propeller hub lubrication.
Because think about it, when this thing starts spinning, whatever's in there is going to start working its way that way.
195 maintenance guru Jeff Pearson also conveyed crucial information about aileron control rod interference.
There's a bell crank up inside that goes like this. It's on an arc. It is not in and out a straight line. So as a result, this rod here, it starts out real close here at the heim joint inside, then swings out and then comes back in closer. When the heim joint is in this position, it's out in the middle of space, it's not going to bother you. But when you go this way, it does bother you. And if you look in here, if you got a flashlight, you can look in and you'll see where the jam nut has been dragging a groove. And on some airplanes, the contact is so great that it actually kind of impedes you having full aileron travel, which you don't want to have. You got to have it go stop to stop. Also, the hinge points on the ailerons and the rudder. These bolts are not supposed to be able to turn. This one here, not only is the bolt turning, but they installed castellated hardware, which now you got to pull the cotter pin out and retighten it and put it all back together.
There's at least one banquet event at each 195 convention, and it includes a silent auction and raffle. The raffle raises money for the Cessna 195 Foundation, which assists young people seeking to get started in aviation. This year's grand prize was a quilt featuring the t-shirt logos of many past 195 conventions. It was won by Tia and Phil Robertson.
We won't tell. What happens under the quilt stays under the quilt, right?
And then something remarkable and touching happened. The Robertsons donated the quilt to Mrs. Maggie Layson, whose husband Craig, a fellow 195er, perished in an Alaskan plane crash a few months prior.
The Robertsons just told me that they won the quilt, and they're going to bestow a gift of the quilt to Maggie Layson.
There were also other activities for convention goers, including a visit to Surefly Aviation's factory, which is also located on the Granbury Airport. Surefly makes electronic ignition systems for aircraft.
It's a 4-cylinder unit, and it actually flew to Oshkosh in 2015.
On what?
On an RB6.
Hey honey, go down there a little ways and go to the left.
And there was a road trip to downtown Fort Worth to the historic Stockyards Shopping and Dining District.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Val.
What, did it not move? I just pushed it.
Oh, you know, honey, it's on my Snapchat.
Of course, this was first and foremost a fly-in gathering. So that's what the 195ers did. They gathered and they flew.
A non-airplane friend of mine said the deal with you pilots is, he said, it's all about the sound. So, and you know, it'd certainly be a difficult position to argue that.
And then it just has those antennas in it, and then it wirelesses to your iPad.
Yeah, the new engine is awesome. We just hung this engine. I blew a cylinder on the way to Sun and Fun with it in April. And then the new engine came, but it came late. We had other activities, so anyway, one thing led to another, but we got it ready for this meet, which took until midnight the night before we came, but we got her ready and got her here.
That's how these things happen.
Yeah, exactly. You need a little pressure.
Now you just need Tempest spark plugs.
This goes back to the mid-70s, this old Norco Com. This Norco 122 goes back to the mid-70s. Of course, this is newer and that's newer. And this is brand new, this transponder.
All these pilots know they are merely stewards of their airplanes. They are simply holding on to them for as long as they can, until it's time to pass them, reluctantly, to someone else who will love and keep the plane as well as they did, hopefully better.
There'll be a time, when you decide it's time to go ahead and pass it on to somebody else. So we'll try and take care of it until then.
You're a caretaker for a while, and if you're a good caretaker, then you're able to pass the airplane on to the next person when that time comes.
That's important?
Absolutely, it's important. I don't know that Dwayne Wallace had any idea that there would be 50 of these airplanes together 70 years after he built the first one. So, that's really pretty incredible.
And then, all too soon it seemed, it was time to go. 195ers untied their planes and loaded them up. They said their goodbyes and started making plans for the next time they'd see each other. For some, it would be next month. For others, it would be next year's convention. But one way or another, they'd find a way to connect. Until that day, each of them will continue to fly their gracefully aging tail dragger with its rumbling, oil-dripping radial engine. They will travel to the conventions as often as possible. They will renew old friendships, trade flying tales and life stories, and cherish the love they have for each other and for this timeless classic of the sky. And all along the way, they will revel in the fact that they are the 195ers.